Okay, problem number 55 is just a lot of PEMDAS stuff, because if you look at that left-hand side, we got a lot to simplify. And if you remember PEMDAS, we start with parentheses on the inside part. So I'd start in here. That's the innermost parentheses, can't simplify it. One thing I do notice, though, there's a negative out in front of that. So let me do this. I can do something here. Let me go ahead and distribute that negative to both of those terms. And remember, when you do that, it's like multiplying both of the terms by -1, but that simply switches the sign on everything in the parentheses. So that plus 1 becomes a -1, that minus 2m becomes a plus 2m, because -1 times 1 is -1, and -1 times -2m is positive 2m. All right, PEMDAS says keep working in those parentheses, so that's what we're going to do. Inside the parentheses, 7 minus 1 is 6 plus 2m. Well, that's all we can do there. Now I notice that I got a number in front of there, and I know I can distribute, so let's go ahead and distribute. -3 times 6 is -18. -3 times 2m would be -6m. And now 5m minus 18 minus 6m, let's see, these are like terms, aren't they? 5m minus 6m is -m minus 18, and what I haven't been carrying along because I've been so busy simplifying is this equals 0, so let me write it in. -m minus 18 equals 0. I can move either one of those terms, but you know what I like for my m to be positive? I'm just going to do this. What if I move the m to the other side? -18 equal m. Look, I am done. So sometimes if the variable's negative, you can add it to both sides so that it ends up being positive, and you can save yourself some time that way. All right, 57 looks like the longest problem in this whole problem set. So I figured there'd be somebody out there who might need this one, and I knew we were going to be working on word problems tomorrow. If you think about this problem, if I want to solve it, I got to get g by itself, but isn't g just all over the place on the left-hand side here? I want to encourage you that if you're having trouble with this problem, it is in the C section, so it would be considered an advanced problem. So if you can do this, man, you're smoking it this year. I've got to simplify that left-hand side because there's so much on it. And so I've got to think PEMDAS when I do that. So PEMDAS tells me to start with parentheses. And if you look at parentheses in here, there's nothing to simplify. I see that I've got brackets in parentheses, so a bracket is just telling me there's another level of parentheses there. It's just trying to help me keep them separate, I guess. Inside this parentheses, there's nothing to simplify, but inside the whole bracket there is. I'm going to go ahead and just copy down 5 times g minus 7, just so we can focus on that one spot. All right, now if I look inside the parentheses, PEMDAS tells me that before I can start doing any adding or subtracting, I've got to do multiplying or dividing, and that -3 out front can get multiplied by both of those terms on the inside. So that would be g minus, okay, so a -3 times a positive g would be a -3g. Just as a reminder, I'm thinking of this g minus is g plus a -3 times all that stuff, okay? So if you kind of need to make that adjustment mentally, I'm thinking g plus -3 times g minus 5. -3 times g is -3g. -3 times a -5 would be a positive 15. Okay, all that's equal to 0. If I clean up on the inside there, and I'm going to do that just by marking some stuff out, this is 1g minus 3g's is -2g's. 1 minus 3 is -2. We just keep the g with it. And so now I can go on and kind of do some more simplifying. If you look now, that whole thing is -2g plus 15. So I'm going to come down in the next line. I'm going to go ahead, I can see that there's a number in front of these parentheses, so let me go ahead and multiply that down as I go simplify more. 5 times g is 5g. I'm thinking of this as g plus -7, so I'm thinking 5 times -7 is -35, or plus -35 would be the same thing as subtracting 35. Now here's what I've got. I've got 2 times -2g plus 15, so that also needs some simplifying. We need to distribute or multiply there. 5g minus 35. Positive 2 times a -2g would be a -4g. Positive 2 times positive 15 would be 30. That's equal to 0. Okay, let's clean up. We got some more cleanup to do. 5g's minus 4g's would be positive 1g. I'll just write it as a g like any good lazy mathematician would do. And then I have a minus 35. You might need to look on the line above it just because I wrote over it with that circle. That's a minus 35 and a plus 30. Negative 35 plus 30 would be negative 5 is equal to 0. Oh, look how this is going to fall out. If I want to solve for g, I add 5 to both sides. And g is 5. Yay! So the hard part was just doing all that simplifying, all that distributing. They're just giving you the workout. Trust me, when you get to calculus, you're going to be glad you had this workout if you take calculus.